Hi, I'm Allison here, a former corporate executive turned high-performance coach on a mission to create more space and freedom in our busy lives. Welcome to the Late Learner Podcast, where here we are ditching those outdated norms and we are finding modern solutions that just work better for you. So what are we late learning today? Well, today it's all about relationships. And I'm so excited about this. We are talking about relationships as it relates to high performers. And speaking of relationships, I need to come clean. I have been working with someone auditing my business, and I realize I have not been as dialed in with you as I should be. I have not been clear. And did you know that I offer private and group coaching and keynote speaking too for professional women who are going through some big shifts? So those include transition strategies like branding, marketing, podcast launches, sales, lifestyle redesign. My clients see amazing results very quickly, but I just haven't been sharing that with you. And since leaving my almost 25 years sales career, I've been expanding my coaching services and expertise. And y'all, I gotta be real with you. The reason why I have not been so clear is because, and if you identify as somebody who is multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate, multi-skilled, all of those things, I keep trying to fit into some small box to make it clean and easy for someone to understand how I can help you. And you know what? I just can't. I'm just gonna throw away the box and just say that I am a Swiss Army knife coach until I can figure out a more feminine and less slasher analogy. So while my coaching engagements are very bespoke, I work through a super clear framework to help you get crystal clarity and clearing the path for next steps and taking action for what you're looking to do. And really, my real superpower is helping people who feel stuck make progress. So if you've got ideas or you just feel a need for change, but you don't know where to start, I am your girl. Don't stay stuck. I am offering a free brainstorming call to help you get started. There is no obligation at all. I just want to help you get moving and have somebody to hear your words and be able to put a strategy around how do you make that real. So schedule a time at allisonhair.com/schedule and let's make it happen. Now let's get back to relationships, especially for high performers. Our guest today is a licensed therapist and author. His name is Jason VanRuler, and he explains and breaks down why do high performers often struggle with their personal relationships. And a lot of times they try to apply the same steps to success that they've had in business to the relationships, and they fail. So his insights are so eye-opening and they offer a fresh approach. And honestly, I have been turning around these ideas over and over, and oh my God, he is onto something. I could not wait to share this with you immediately. So before we hear from Jason, let's get to the good stuff. What is stuff? It stands for the surprisingly true, useful fun fact. According to a new study conducted by one poll out of New York, almost half of Americans consider themselves modern-day workaholics. Do you consider yourself that way? I certainly do. They predict this number is even higher, meaning that the average American works 4 hours a week for free and burns another 4 hours just thinking about their job. And what I thought about is, oh my goodness, I never calculated the mental space work and finances are living in our head rent-free. And what would it look like if we recalibrated that attention with more of the joyful small things that make us happy? Can we balance out the scales? Well, the good news is that we are going to learn how right now with my guest, Jason VanRuler. Let's take a listen. I am super excited to bring Jason VanRuler here. And Jason, I don't know if anybody has ever told you this, but in my head all day is Jason Derulo.
I have never heard that, but I will take it. Right. That sounds fantastic. I love it.
But Jason, you are the author of Get Past Your Past, this incredible book, and a licensed therapist in multiple states. And you talk all about, obviously, getting past your past. but also relationships. So I want to understand, we were like starting to get all juicy, and I was like, let's record. Tell me what's on your mind today as it relates to, are we in a moment where we have too much therapy?
Yeah. And I'm just going to be very careful with this and say, if you're in therapy, I'm not saying to stop. But what I am saying is that we're kind of in this season of max awareness, right? So there's so much good information out there about what a healthy relationship is, what it isn't, traits, patterns, all these things we need to look out for. But the challenge is that awareness doesn't necessarily bring us more connection. So we are more appropriately equipped to label things. But again, labeling it doesn't bring us closer together. And so in some ways, some of this whole therapy movement is actually bringing disconnection because we're not doing anything with it. And so to do something with it is really, I think, the next frontier.
You talk a lot in your book about being broken. And if we feel like we are broken, we tend to isolate ourselves because we are afraid that we're going to be too much or not enough or whatever it is, that we need to show up. And what's interesting to me, Jason, is there have been a couple people in my life that have said, Allison, I'm sorry I've been MIA. I haven't been in a good place and I didn't want to burden you with it. I even thought like, oh my God, I want to know. I'd want to be there. Because people have been there for me. Can you talk more about the isolation that we are almost self-isolating?
Yeah, well, I think going to that place of labeling and having that awareness, then we use that to rule ourselves out, right? And we say, okay, well, now I've got these issues, and so what I need to do with these issues is isolate and go it alone, right? I don't want to burden anyone with that. But the challenge is that we're really wounded in relationships and healed in relationships, and so isolating is actually just preventing the thing we really need to get better. And we've all felt that way. I'm sure you have. I have too, right? I felt like I'm going through this hard season. I need to just kind of walk that out alone. But the challenge is that just means we're going to stay stuck, because then we have to only rely on what we know to get through it. And that's really tough to do.
Yeah. So let's unpack this, because you had talked about a story where you went on a marriage retreat and you had like a massive blowout fight with your wife and you're like mortified, right? Like you're failing at this retreat. Can you talk more about that? Can you share that story?
Well, thanks for bringing it up, Allison. I appreciate it. I'm giving you a hard time. Yeah, I went, and as a therapist, I'm supposed to have it all figured out, right? I'm supposed to have the perfect marriage and know all the right things to say. And boy, I didn't. And I just got to this place where it was like as ugly as it could have been. And I really just struggled with like, I want to present what I want to present. I want it to look a certain way, but that's not how it is. And so do I tell him how I want it to look, or do I tell him how it is? And in that moment, I had a courageous moment where I made a decision to tell some other people how it was. But for me, that was very vulnerable, right? Because it was saying, hey, I don't have it all figured out. And maybe I should, and maybe I've read all the books and I know all the things, and I still am stuck. But I'll tell you what, in that moment when I did that, it changed everything, because then people became willing to help me. And what I found is that there had been people willing to help me all along, kind of like with you and your friend, right? It's you would love to help, but you need to have permission to do so.
So I love the thinking about this, because you use the word, I chose a courageous moment, because I think our challenge is being able to receive love. Like we feel like we have not earned it yet, unless we're in a better spot, unless we're okay, we're not going to be a burden. And you use this line in the book that I thought was so freaking powerful. Instead of seeking healing, we seek comfort. Mm-hmm. So can we create a different narrative for comfort?
Comfort keeps us stuck. That's the problem, right? Is the healing is going to require us to be uncomfortable because it's new. And so what we do is we kind of get this wound and we try to just wrap it up with all this protective covering, right? And we just say, if I just, don't look at that again, or I don't do that again, then I'll be okay. But that actually stalls us out, and it actually prevents the very thing we want most, which is to get better. But what I would tell you that I've learned as a therapist is it's uncomfortable either way. So whether we do the work or we don't do the work, it's uncomfortable, because there are pros and cons to both. right? It's just one is moving in the right direction and one isn't. And so how do we do the thing that gets us to where we want to go? Well, we probably have to look at it.
It's hard though, because, and I think you talk a lot about this in your work, is finding safe people.
Mm-hmm.
And because so much of this is wrapped around relationships, like I always think work is easy, relationships are hard. And I think that we have almost atrophied our ability to have strong relationships because we've been burned in the past. There have been people that we've been really, really close to. I think you talked about like people can traumatize us and also save us. So I love your framework. Can you kind of share what it looks like to identify who is the safe person and not just unloading on whoever is willing to listen?
Yeah, because that leads to hurt a lot of times, right? If
Yeah.
we're not careful and we don't kind of qualify the person we're going to talk to, what we do is we do unload or we vent, or we take this very, courageous moment and we're very vulnerable. And then if the person doesn't know what to do with that, or they're not the right person or a safe person, we get wounded. And then kind of talking about the narratives we talked about, then we say, see, this is why I don't do that.
Yeah.
Right. Because I trusted this person and now they hurt me. And so this is what people do. And so the challenge is to really just identify people who are safe, and you can do that. There's, some qualities listed in the book, but, I think some of that is just they're available. They're willing to do that. They're for you, right? They don't have an agenda. So they just genuinely want to help you. Ideally, they're people who have gone through something before, that they could actually speak to your situation. Sometimes we tell somebody something that they have no understanding of, and it's very hard to get any feedback. And so if we're going to take the moment to be courageous and be vulnerable, we need to find a safe person. And then the other thing about that is find somebody and take one small step. So you don't maybe have to do the 30-minute monologue, maybe just like do 2 minutes of vulnerability and see how they receive it. And if they receive it well, then try some more.
So let's talk about vulnerability. And you talk about 3 levels of depth. What are those 3 levels?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just even want to think, you kind of have the shallows and you have the mid-range and then you have the depth. And so the shallows is the people that I really don't know very well, right? So the people where if you ask me how I'm doing, I'd say great. And I'd say great if it was my best day or my worst day, right? I'm just doing great, right? You have the more mid-range where you're explaining, I'm actually kind of sad today, or today's been a hard day. You're getting more accurate, a little more depth. And then the deepest level is really talking to people about what's actually going on inside. And that's going to be reserved for people that are trusted and people who are safe in your life. And so that's not going to be everybody. And so it's important that we have all 3 levels in our life, right? Because we need that. And we want to be dynamic and have these different people, but we have to get good at kind of assessing, like, where is our relationship and how much can it handle? Where people struggle a lot and have a lot of pain is they try to take a shallow relationship and make it a deep one when that's just not how it is.
Talk more about that, because I feel like there are times in my life where I feel like I've made poor choices with people and I feel like I don't trust myself. Or you might feel like home is not safe, right? Like maybe you're fighting with your partner or your spouse. So can you walk through, like, how do we identify, I think sometimes we are so harsh on ourselves that we don't deserve it because we've made, let's say, poor decisions in the past.
Yeah, well, everyone makes poor decisions in the past, right? So there's some truth to that, right? I mean, I've made a lot of poor decisions, and to have regret about that indicates that we've grown.
Yeah.
Right. So just to even acknowledge, like, oh, I feel badly about that, reflects that you've grown, because people who don't grow don't feel bad. Right. So people who are in that place still repeating those things, they're not feeling bad about it. And so it is growth to regret it. I think the other thing is, with people, you start everybody at shallow and you work your way down. What we do sometimes, though, if we're so hungry for it and don't have it, is we just try to start out with that deep relationship. And the relationship can't sustain that. And so you just start at the top and you take little steps and work your way down. That shouldn't be an overnight process.
Can you give an example of each of those levels of depth? Because I think sometimes people can, say things off the cuff that can go deep really quickly. Like I'm the kind of person that if I go to a party, I'm talking to one person and we are so deep, like there's no small talk, right? And that's just how I am. I don't want to talk about the weather and school and crossing guards and whatever. I want to talk about like life's problems. You know what I mean? How do we
Yes. And I love
solve
that.
some life problems together? So can you kind of give some examples if somebody is trying to figure out, you know what, I really do want to kind of regroup some of the people that I have around me. How do I do this? This is a new muscle for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love that about you. And me too, right? Those are the people I gravitate towards. Is I'm like, I don't care to talk about the weather. Let's talk about something real.
Hey, it's Allison. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas shared on this show are something I can help you implement in your own life? As a Swiss Army knife type of coach, I help professional women make their big dreams become reality through transition strategy, private and group coaching to rebrand around marketing, sales, launching your podcast if that's an avenue you want to explore, or just getting through this next season in your life with someone clearing the path forward for you to step into your highest version of yourself and not be alone. I'm offering a free brainstorming session for you with just me, one-on-one at allisonhair.com/schedule. Take this time for yourself. I promise you will thank yourself for it.
The thing with depth, though, is that you need intention and consistency. And so in order to have that, you need some time. And so I know, as you know, that you and I might meet someone at a party and have those really meaningful conversations and then never speak again.
Yeah.
I don't call that depth. I just call that a different version of shallow, right? Because it's just what that is a very temporary thing, but it's not indicative of a relationship. So to me, while that's a beautiful start, and it probably is a signal that those are my type of people, what I want to know is like, oh, do we talk the next week? Do we have any sort of meaningful, lasting connection? Because that's really what I'm looking for. Because if I want to be vulnerable consistently with someone, we have to have an ongoing relationship.
I think that is the part that requires some reformation in the world. Because Jason, you and I can like bump into a coffee shop and say, Jason, I love talking to you. We should get together sometime. And we both know that will never happen unless we get out our calendars and like coordinate it, right? Like we're overloaded, we're over functioning, we're overscheduled. To be intentional really does require two people to kind of just be in it. Like, let's see where this goes. I really feel like there was some connection, but it requires more. It requires a reformation. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And that relationship over time. And so I think if a person's willing to meet you there, then yeah, we have depth and that becomes one of my people. But that is something earned over time. And I think, unfortunately, what we do sometimes is we think that because someone can speak our language, it indicates depth. And sometimes they're just speaking our language. And that's a wonderful thing. It definitely makes parties go better to meet somebody like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be in your circle.
I want to stop for a minute over because somebody can speak your language doesn't mean that they have depth. They just speak your language. And I think there is an interesting maybe mismatch of somebody's needs. Like I have been in positions, and I talk about this a lot, where I've been, really experienced some profound loneliness around some of my friendships that I've had that meant the world to me, but they evolved in a way that was no longer a fit. And so there is a grieving process. And that grieving process, at least for me, I would meet people and be like, will you be my best friend? Will you be my best friend? How about you? You sound fun. And I know I sound a little embarrassed saying that. I'm in my mid-40s. I'm in a happily married relationship where I have love in my life. But it is a new identity. It is truly a new identity that is not like ditching people in the past, but like trying on new clothes of like identifying how do we connect in a new way. I don't know if that's a question or just a statement, but I'd be curious to know your perspective.
Well, I mean, I relate, I relate to interviewing best friends often, and having that season, and I think that's often a season that comes after some personal growth,
Yeah.
right? Because we start to look at things a little differently, and we take a look at our life and we say, where do I fit in well, and where is a little bit challenging? What do I do with that? And so I think that's a natural part of life, but it's an uncomfortable part, right? Because in some ways we're searching. And the searching is sometimes anxiety provoking. That's not always
Yeah.
fun for us, but it requires searching if we want to grow, right? Because otherwise, what we're doing is staying stuck.
Yeah. And I know that you work with couples a lot and you do a lot of work in your therapy. What are you seeing in general? What are the trends or things that you find that people are really seeking or needing or hungry for?
Yeah. So, with me, I work with a lot of high performers. And so, what I see in those relationships is we have everything we want, but we don't have what we need.
Yes.
And so having what you want is great, right? I mean, that's however you define success, having what you want is important, but really having what you need is more important. And so I see a lot of people who seemingly have it all, but they don't have connection, or they say I'm just lonely a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think there's this really wonderful movement of people who are just kind of saying, like, let's go back to what we actually need. I need some friends. I need to have a healthy relationship with my person and my marriage. I want to be a good parent. Like, let's get back to what really matters. And maybe the stuff that we thought was really important isn't as important as we thought.
You had done a post on high performers have trouble with relationships because they apply some of their paint by number, do this hustle, like to their relationship. Can you talk more about that? Because I thought that was like completely mind blowing that it's like it's such a singular focus of like your own pursuit of success, but applying it to relationships, there may be challenges there. What do you see?
Yeah. So the trouble is the way we see most things, we see everything, right? And so it's sort of like if you're that high performer, you see yourself as being resilient and able to solve problems. And that's usually true, right? I mean, a lot of very successful people, like they're highly adaptable, resourceful, but it's singular, right? It's I'll find a way to make it happen. I'll find a way to make it work. Well, that's awesome. And yet in our primary relationships, that's really challenging, because then what we tend to do is we tend to find people who either A, need us to save them often, right? They need someone to come to their rescue, or B, or are willing to let you do all the work, right? Because they say, well, you're going to do it anyway, right? You're resourceful. You're going to make it happen. So I'll just kind of sit back. And so eventually those relationships become really challenging because the high performer says, I'm doing all the work. And the truth is, yeah, you're kind of doing all the work, but that's sort of our agreement. And so what we need to learn is just how to look at our relationships through a different lens than the one we approach our business with.
So what would a new lens look like for a relationship when it is lopsided?
Yeah, I mean, it's an honest conversation. And usually what that starts with is what that person really needs. So some of the challenge that a high performer has is they don't often know what they need personally. They're just driving all the time. And so really the first thing we kind of start with is, what do you need and how do we get that need met? Is the person you're with a person who's willing to do it? Now, what's often interesting is usually these people are in a relationship with someone who's like, I want to meet your need. Like, I want to do that, but you have to let me try. And so then we move to a place of like, well, if they are willing to do that, can you receive it? So if your need is to feel loved and supported, are you willing to receive it?
Whoa. Is it hard for a high performer to receive?
Yes.
Why?
You have to trust somebody. You have to believe that they can do it for you.
Why are we so untrustworthy?
Because we've been hurt. We've been hurt. And that's often what fuels really successful people, is that they've been hurt, and that wound has created drive, right? So if, I'm a person who, as a child, my kind of wound was that I was never going to be enough no matter what, right? So my drive is to prove to everybody that I'm enough, right? Make everybody like me, be totally enough, okay? But the problem is that's really empty, because it's actually not true, and it's not how we want to approach a relationship. And so to be in a healthy relationship, means to be vulnerable enough to say, I'm going to take a risk.
It's so resonant. And I think your particular story is very interesting if you'd be willing to share why this is a focus of yours, how you got into therapy. Because I think the about face that you had experienced as a young person was so resonant. Like I totally related to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'll give you the short version of it, which is just, my parents divorced early, and we went from like having this just middle class suburban life to chaos, right? So we moved 18 times. There was addiction, abuse, all the things. And so I left high school swearing it off, right? Just saying, I'm going to be this different person. You'll see. I'm going to be so successful. I'll never do any of this stuff. And then, where the book starts a couple of years later, I just basically went in a full circle. And I became all the things I said I wasn't going to. And I really looked in the mirror, and I know it's kind of cliche sounding, but it's true. I just really hated the person looking back. I was like, oh man, you had these big dreams and you've done none of it. Right. And so that planted a seed. And then I met my wife, and for the first time ever, somebody loved me and just said like, I love you, but I expect more. And no one had ever done that. And so that was like the best thing ever. I was like, okay, well, I'll do more then. That sounds great. And so that started to lead me down that path of realizing my potential. Because I just needed somebody to say like, I think you can do better than what you're doing. And I think I had known that for a long time, but I needed somebody to say it. And her saying that was really the catalyst to me saying, okay, let's see.
You talk about perfection. I don't know if you use these words, but to me, it sounded like perfectionistic healing, right? Like I'm going to heal correctly. I'm going to do everything right. What I have been noticing lately is how profoundly life-changing it is when somebody can see you and hear you for who you are, not who you put yourself out to be. And it sounds like your wife recognized that. Like, I see you, Jason. I don't see all the drive and all the stuff that you've been trying to overcome. But I wonder about like people's ability, again, to receive. I have been on the receiving end of people seeing and hearing me in a way that I didn't even know I needed. I didn't ask for it. They just saw me. And it was profoundly life-changing. And I wonder, is it because you are surrounding yourself with more intentional people and or giving of yourself? Like, what does it look like to maybe take the mask off for a high performer?
Well, and that's such a good question. Yeah, it's such a good question because it's both, right? It's for people to see you, you have to let them in a little bit.
Yes.
Right. And so when you do that, and what you're talking about, in my opinion, just my experience, that truly is the catalyst for change. I don't care who it is. When you feel really seen without an agenda from someone, you feel empowered to be different. Because you feel like if I already am loved for who I am, that it's okay to take a risk.
Yeah.
But as long as it feels like I'm not loved for who I am, then our mindset and our approach is to simply protect what we have. Right. And so we say, I'm not actually going to change because I just need to protect this so I don't lose it. And so what you're talking about is really that relationship, right? Is like, I'm going to give you a little bit, I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable. And hopefully the other person's going to see you there and say, you're accepted, you're heard, you're seen, you're chosen, either way. And when we have that, that's when a person says, okay, I'll make some changes.
I kind of feel what you're saying too about wanting to protect it, like that armor of just, I don't want anybody hurting me. So I'm just going to keep it up and just be pleasant and, kick ass and whatever. And one of the things that you say in your book that kind of stuck out to me of love shouldn't be a secret. Why is it a secret?
Yeah, because I think it's vulnerable to say that. There's risk involved in saying you love someone, whether it's platonic or romantic, but just to let somebody know that is to let them know your heart. And so I think if we've been hurt before, we can get kind of protective about that and say like, well, I'll just love them quietly from afar.
Yeah.
I'll just never say it. And that way I don't have to know if they love me too, or that way I don't have to know if they would hurt me. But the problem is when it's a secret, nothing comes of it. Right. And sometimes the thing people really need to know is that they're loved.
Isn't that something? I don't know if this is, I'll probably cut this out in post edit, but I have always had this thing, like I have no problem saying I love you to my kids and my husband and all of that. But for my friends, I always felt it very weird to say, I love you or love you, girl, whatever. I just never liked it. I never felt comfortable with it. And I always wondered, was there something more to that? And so that sentence, love shouldn't be a secret. I'm trying to be more mindful to say the words out loud, but I don't know why I'm so resistant. Now this is my therapy session, Jason.
I love it.
Fix me.
I'm happy to do it. That's great. Yeah, I can fix you. Well, I mean, as a Midwestern Lutheran, we don't tell anybody that we love them. That's sort of against the rules, right? So growing up that way, that was just not something you do. But it is vulnerable, and I relate to that. I have a hard time saying it, but here's what I know. When I've lost people in my life, I've never regretted telling them I love them. I've regretted not telling them I love them. And so if I know that and I have the ability to change that, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. What do you know that you wish other people could know?
Well, most of it is going to be stuff that's probably been said better than I would say it. But what I wish people understood is like the thing that matters most are our relationships. I mean, at the end of the day, that is all you have. And we can pretend it's a lot of other things and distract ourselves with a lot of other things or say we can do it on our own. But at the end of the day, really what we have that matters are our relationships. And so if you have not had a good role model or you're not good at that, investing in having healthier relationships is the single best thing you can do. And even if you're just a business person who's like, oh, Jason, I only care about business, still, if you invest in relationships, your business will be better as a result.
And this podcast is called Late Learner. Jason, what have you learned lately that you were wrong about?
So much. I'm always learning. And I'm usually learning like, oh, I need to update that.
I'm always wrong.
Don't listen to me. I'm always wrong.
Right.
Here's what I would tell you. I think what I've had to learn in the last couple of years is that how I framed success was really inaccurate. Because how I framed success was how the 10-year-old version of me framed success, right? It was to do things. And I think what I've learned now in this season is it's not about doing things, it's about knowing people. And that's been a shift for me, is that success is having friends I could call to tell them the hard thing. That's actually success. And I don't think I saw it that way.
And I don't think that's anything that was ever taught. I do work on like rebuilding your inner circle. And people will say, well, I have friends. Like, isn't this something we should have learned in high school? And no, we did not. We never learned how to be a good friend at all.
No,
we never did.
We don't talk about it.
No.
And we should, because the thing is like how we do relationships really determines our happiness. And it's our relationship with ourselves. It's our relationship with others. If you're a faith person, but it's how we do relationships is the thing that will definitely impact our happiness. And so I think for me, it's just kind of coming back to like, oh, this isn't as complicated as I thought. Yeah, it really isn't. It's pretty simple and just being okay with it being simple.
I love that. And I think that, again, it's just the intentional aspect of like, carving out some time in whether it is physical time or even mental headspace over how do I design this in a way that is for the greater good, where everyone is kind of that give to give mentality. Jason, you've been amazing. You have this amazing book called Get Past Your Past. I know you do speaking engagements. How do people get in touch with you? You've got a banging Instagram account. It's fantastic and so helpful. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for those kind words. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, all the platforms too. It's jason.vanruler. So if you hear my voice today and you're like, I'd love to hear his voice every day for free, congratulations. Have I got something for you? And then my website is jasonvr.com. And so any one of those places you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your work. It's important. And this was such a great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Allison. I appreciate it.
I love this chat with licensed therapist Jason VanRuler. And what's really stayed with me is redefining what we need to put a higher value on connection and our relationships over the traditional measures of financial and career success. It actually has changed how I sleep, believe it or not, because my focus is shifted on what's going right in my relationships at home and with my friends and the people in my circles instead of what I don't have or what I lack. I want you to grab Jason's book, Get Past Your Past, and follow him on Instagram. I've linked his info in the show notes. And as for you, I am making a plea for you. I don't want you to wait any more time to go for what you want, even if it's not clear yet. I want you to take one step forward, whether that is making a call, sending an email, doing that Google search, reaching out. Do not talk yourself out of it, just one small step. And as I promised, I am offering a free brainstorming session with me to play this out for you. I only have limited spots to do this, so be sure to get yours at AllisonHair.com/schedule. And by the way, if you have gotten an ounce of value from this show, will you share this in your circles? And let's keep talking. Let's keep this conversation going. And if you leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or CastBox, it is like a virtual tip jar for me. I continue to be able to offer this information for free at no cost to you. So helping me, writing a review for me helps me understand how to shape this show going forward so it just gets better and better for you. As always, thanks for listening. And if I don't see you on the socials, I'll see you next episode.